Cheyenne Tonisha Shropshire was born on January 15, 1998. In 2016, she and Caleb Bivens gave birth to a daughter. Unfortunately, in 2017, 19-year-old Cheyenne had developed a drug addiction. By 2018, her drug addiction was in full force, and she was living at the Alcoa Inn in Alcoa, Tennessee. On August 24, 2018, she went to the Bojangles next door where her sister Savannah worked and asked for some food. Savannah told her to come back later that night and she would give her some. However, by 11 p.m., when employees were getting ready to leave, Cheyenne was nowhere to be found. So Savannah sent her a text asking if she was going to come get the food, and there was no response until 4:09 a.m. when Cheyenne's phone responded. The response read, and I quote, "I was there at 10:40 to pick it up, and nobody was there." The surveillance footage at Bojangles was then checked, but no signs of her could be found. So was it really her that sent the text? On September 8, 2018, when there was still no sign of Cheyenne, her family reported her missing. 2 years would go by with no signs of her until March 24, 2020, when someone found her skeletal remains in a field in rural Maryville, Tennessee. An autopsy was performed, and the medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. The Blount County Sheriff's Office then held onto the remains for 4 years before releasing them over to the family so they could have a proper burial. During that time, investigators said they had identified a suspect. However, since that person hasn't been arrested, Cheyenne's family is asking that the case be turned over to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Unfortunately, as of 2024, this case remains unsolved. Jennifer Lynn Wyant was born on December 3, 1958. In mid-1980, 21-year-old Jennifer was living in Nashville, Tennessee at the Tanglewood Apartments, which are now called the Whispering Oaks. She was also working at the Colonial Bakery while going to night school. On Friday, June 27, 1980, she and her co-workers ate lunch at Taco Bell on Nolensville Road. While there, they talked about their weekend plans, and Jennifer mentioned that she was playing in a softball game on Saturday and then attending a party afterward. The party was being held by the Apartment Association, which included multiple apartments in the area and was to celebrate the Budweiser Softball League. The following day, she played in the softball game and stayed for the party, but after leaving alone, she was never seen again. When Sunday rolled around and Jennifer failed to show up for church, her parents became concerned. She then missed work on Monday morning, and with nobody able to reach her, they reported her missing. Her apartment was found undisturbed, and her brand new car was still in the parking lot. However, there were no signs of Jennifer. Investigators began canvassing the apartment complex and came across some neighbors who heard a woman screaming on the night Jennifer disappeared. When they looked out their apartment window, they saw 4 individuals forcing a woman into a dark-colored 4-door sedan and driving away. They reported the incident to the security guard, Larry Britt, but he never notified the police. It's believed the woman being abducted was Jennifer. Larry claims he simply forgot to notify authorities of the possible abduction. Besides being a security guard, he also worked as a private investigator who had investigated the death of famed McNairy County Sheriff Buford Pusser. The life of Sheriff Buford was made into a movie in 1973 called Walking Tall, which was then remade in 2004 using different character names and starred Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. On June 11, 1986, he was found murdered in the First Realty Group's office. He was sleeping there on a cot most nights with his wife because the office had 5 break-ins over the last 2 years. However, on that particular night, he was alone. Larry owned the Little Brown Jug Market next door and would watch over both businesses. While it's an interesting story, they found no connection between his murder and Jennifer's disappearance. Over 5 months after Jennifer disappeared, on December 11, 1980, investigators found her driver's license about 15 miles from her apartment on Blue Lake Lane in Laverne, Tennessee. At the time, the housing complex was under development. Tracker dogs were brought in, but no clues to her whereabouts were found. It's believed she was abducted and possibly murdered, but as of 2024, she has never been found, and this case remains unsolved. John Michael Threadgill was born on July 24, 1963, to parents John and Norma, and went by Mike or his nickname T-Baby. In early 2017, 53-year-old John was living in Lexington, Tennessee, and was a father of 5. In 2011, he unfortunately lost his wife of 17 years. 6 years after her death, tragedy struck John. On the night of March 2, 2017, he went to a local bar with some friends and his brother. Afterward, they all went to his home to hang out for a while. After calling it a night, everyone left, and that was the last time they would ever see John alive. The next morning, around 10:45 a.m., someone came by his home to borrow a saw, but instead found John's body lying on the floor beside the front door. He was still wearing the same clothes as the night before and had been shot multiple times. Unfortunately, there is little information, and as of 2024, this case remains unsolved. Kaitlyn Abree Ledbetter was born near Indianapolis, Indiana on June 15, 1995, to parents Tracy and Scott. Her parents divorced in 1999, and she remained in Indianapolis with her mother. When Kaitlyn was 18 years old, her mother sadly passed away. After that, she and her younger brother moved in with their father in rural Hillam, Tennessee. Kaitlyn was described as a quiet person who didn't do drugs and never got into trouble. In 2019, she began dating Dustin Loftus and became close with his family. By 2021, 25-year-old Kaitlyn was still living with her father and his girlfriend, Crystal Tyson. She was also working and still dating Dustin. Unfortunately, it appears that she and Crystal weren't seeing eye to eye, and on the morning of March 2, 2021, an alleged argument would change their lives forever. After the two got into an argument around 5:30 a.m., Kaitlyn jumped out of her bedroom window in her pajamas and ran off into the woods, never to be seen again. Some say the argument was due to Dustin staying over at their house, while others say it was because of the dog Kaitlyn kept in her room. I want to apologize in advance for all the allegedly I'm going to say because, just like a lot of the cases I cover, law enforcement dropped the ball, and the information I'm providing isn't exactly official and came from those close to Kaitlyn. I'm also going to get an important question out of the way early. Why would she jump out of the window instead of just going out the door? It's very bizarre, but Scott claims he witnessed the argument and saw her jump out the window and run into the woods. If she did jump out the window, was that because she was extremely terrified of someone in the home and that was the quickest escape? By that afternoon, when Kaitlyn had failed to return, Scott called and informed her sister Kaylee of the situation. Strangely, when Kaylee said she was coming to help look for her, Scott told her no. She went anyway, and the next morning, she tried to wake Scott up so they could go to the police station and report her missing, but he said he was tired and wanted to go back to sleep. It's almost as if he wasn't concerned with finding her. In a lot of these cases, this is typical behavior when the person already knows where the person is. I'm not saying that Scott does, but that's typically how it plays out. Once she finally got him up, they arrived at the police station at 9:20 a.m., but left disappointed when officers told her they were not going to file a missing persons report because Kaitlyn was over the age of 18 and could disappear if she wanted to. So Kaylee got more family members together to search for her, but once again, Scott was acting strange and allegedly only went on one of those searches. You'll soon begin to notice strange things in the case, such as when a family member came forward and said they received a text from Kaitlyn at 7 a.m. on the day she disappeared. However, the wording in the text didn't match Kaitlyn's verbiage. An even bigger issue with this was the fact that she allegedly ran out of the house without the phone. If that's the case, who had her phone and who really sent the text message? A week after her disappearance, law enforcement finally got involved, and even they had issues with the text message. Due to the rural location of where she went, they don't believe it would have been even possible for her to have cell phone service. Investigators then brought out tracker dogs who followed her scent from the home to the road and stopped. This caused them to believe that she left and got in the car with someone. However, Kaitlyn didn't have a car, and I would assume she caught rides with people on occasion, so the dogs could have been picking up her scent from another day, or did she meet with foul play and someone carried her out to a vehicle? It's alleged that the search with the dogs was not proper and that law enforcement waited 9 months before conducting a thorough search of the woods. If things weren't already strange enough, it got even worse 3 months later, on August 24, 2021, when her father's home burned down. After the fire was out, Crystal's remains were found in the basement. How did Scott make it out and Crystal didn't? Allegedly, since Kaitlyn's disappearance, Scott's other children have cut all communication with him. They've said they did this because he is not a very nice person, but could part of the reason be that they don't fully believe his story about Kaitlyn's disappearance? Unfortunately, when a new sheriff was elected in Overton County, it was discovered that the original detective on Kaitlyn's case lost the evidence, and the new detective wasn't even sure what evidence was originally there. Since her disappearance, there has been zero activity on her social media accounts and bank accounts, and her social security number has not been used. That doesn't sound like someone who escaped to start a new life. I do want to mention a couple of things that may or may not be true. First of all, Scott and Crystal were allegedly heavy drug users. Also, Dustin was not allowed at their house, which could explain the argument. Before Crystal's death, she was allegedly ramping up her conversations with Kaitlyn's sister Kaylee. Was she feeling guilty about something and wanted to get it off her chest but never got the chance? Kaylee said that her father had never shown any emotions but rage until Kaitlyn disappeared. She said when she showed up at the house on May 3rd, he sat down and cried for an hour, repeating she isn't coming back. Come to find out, the two different stories for what the argument was about came from Crystal and Scott. So why would they change their story? Kaylee said her father was the one who told her the argument that morning was over Kaitlyn's dog. So why did they tell others the argument was about Dustin? To sum it all up, Scott claims his 25-year-old daughter, Kaitlyn, got into an argument with his girlfriend, Crystal, and then jumped out of her bedroom window and ran off into the woods. Then, 3 months later, a mysterious fire burns the house down, and Crystal is found dead in the basement. Now, Scott's own children have cut ties with him and have allegedly even called him a sociopath. It was also alleged that Scott told the family not to search the woods because she wouldn't be there. Unfortunately, it's now been 7 years since Kaitlyn disappeared, and as of 2024, this case remains unsolved. Summer Moon Utah Wells was born on February 4, 2016, to parents Candace and Donald in Hawkins County, Tennessee. Summer had 3 brothers and was described as having a smile that could light up a room. On the morning of June 15, 2021, 5-year-old Summer went to a swimming hole with her mother, grandmother, and older brother. After returning to their home in Rogersville, Tennessee that afternoon, she helped her mother and grandmother plant some flowers before going inside to play with her toys in the basement. Sadly, that was the last time she would ever see her daughter again. That evening, Candace called downstairs for Summer but received no reply. Finding that strange, she went downstairs and found that Summer was gone. She informed Donald, who in turn called the police. An Amber Alert was issued, but sadly, it did not lead to her whereabouts. When investigators began questioning Candace and Donald, they allegedly gave conflicting statements about the events surrounding her disappearance. While they were never officially named as suspects, investigators looked at them like they were, and so did the community and people online. It wasn't helped that Donald was arrested for a domestic assault in 2020. Then, in 2022, Candace took an order of protection against Donald, but later asked for it to be dismissed. To this day, no solid evidence has been found to implicate them in their daughter's disappearance. That hasn't stopped people from accusing and harassing them. They even caught members of the community on video harassing them.
One of his job sites where some people were demanding to speak with him about the case.
We're gonna follow you. We're gonna wait here all day.
Candace said that one day, while she was at the grocery store, someone screamed at her, calling her a baby killer. It got so bad that they eventually left the state. Law enforcement has since come out and said that Donald and Candace have been nothing but cooperative and have even passed a polygraph. Interestingly, a neighbor came forward and said she heard screaming coming from the house an hour before Summer disappeared. Investigators looked into the tip, but it led nowhere. Her parents believe someone walked on the property, abducted her, and took her down a steep hill to a waiting vehicle. If that's true, could a red Toyota pickup truck that was seen in the area be involved? Unfortunately, investigators have been unable to locate it. During an interview in 2023, Donald said of Candace, and I quote, "The biggest mistake she might have made is choosing some wrong friends." Does he believe that people who knew Candace abducted their daughter? Early on in the search, Texas EquiSearch got involved using specialized equipment and techniques, but was unable to find Summer, which would make sense if she was abducted and placed in a vehicle. I also want to note that her brothers were the last ones to see her around 6 p.m. on the day she disappeared. The boys were then removed from the home after Summer's disappearance. Don even said that it wasn't safe for the children to be there due to the harassment after Summer went missing. Toward the end of 2023, the boys were still not back with their parents. In a shocking twist, this is not the first time the family had someone go missing. Summer's aunt, 21-year-old Rose Marie Bly, went missing from Wisconsin on August 21, 2009, and has never been found. I covered her case if you're interested in checking it out. However, investigators do not believe the cases are connected. If Summer is still alive, she would be 8 years old, but as of April 2024, she has not been found, and this case remains unsolved.